What is going on? Welcome aboard to Thursday Live with Dan and Damon. And, funny enough, we always have this little technical glitch right at the beginning and everything. We've been on here for 10 minutes shooting the breeze, and then I punched a button, so I had to restart, which is going to slow down everything for just a minute. But I got a feeling Damon will be joining me again very, very quickly, as it looks like everything is up and running. Except for a Damon, which is what I need. A little bit of Damon in my life. So today, I'm just going to go ahead and kind of start setting this up until he jumps back on here, because this is quite a mystery. Here he is. Hey, Damon. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. We're back. Can hear each other and everything?
We're working on it.
All right. So it's so funny. So today, we came on early, so there would be no technical difficulties. I'm running my mouth, and I punch a button, and then I had to restart everything to make it reset.
I told you it was the death of the whole thing. I knew I just absolutely had screwed the pooch with that comment.
Well, all right. Happy Thursday. How's your day going?
Good, good. A couple sales calls today. Going out and seeing some guys. Stopped in at Southern Lux Detail. Hung out with them for a little bit. So yeah, I mean, it was nice to get out of the house and get away from the office, I should say more so, and get back into a detail shop a little bit, you know?
Yeah, I was supposed to hang out with Dustin today, but he actually got so darn busy that he could not make today, nor next week, but the week after. By golly, unless that's Christmas, he is planning on joining us, and we're gonna try to get that scheduled, because he's a really good resource to have in there too, and a good voice to throw some opinions at us.
Oh, 100%.
Okay. So hey, today we were talking about what should we make the topic about, and we kind of came up with two little things that we interweave together. And one of them is going to be checklists, which I am absolutely enamored with the whole checklist idea. And then the other side
Hmm.
is preventing burnout, which I actually, from your from following your lead, or from watching you, I'm really kind of realizing some of what I'm doing in life is leading to a little bit of burnout, where I've just got so darn many things that I'm pushing for, like personal projects and owner's pride projects, and like so much. So I really look up to how you have really good work-life separation, and so I've been doing a ton of research and reading books and talking to people, and coming up with ideas that can help avoid that burnout. So in the near future, I want to do an entire episode about that, but I still have a little
Hmm.
more digging to do, and some changes that I'm working on making for my own life.
Yeah, I do think, when we're talking about the topic today, like checklist, work-life balance, whatever, I'm like, it honestly, it works together. It really does. If you're creating a business, you have to have a checkoff list, of sorts, not just for yourself, but for everybody else. And it's helping to keep everybody on the same page. And also what you're talking about, the work-life balance, you kind of have a peace of mind of knowing that you've put yourself there without being there with that checklist.
Yeah. And I mean, these checklists, first of all, I will say Davis recommended a book to me a couple years ago called
Hmm.
Checklist Manifesto. And I would say the guy's name. Its first name starts with an A, last name starts with a G. And I would just chew it up, because I can't see it in front of me at the moment. But it was incredible. I really, really enjoyed the book. I know Davis is a big proponent of checklists, and he uses them
Hmm.
in most aspects of his life. And I even was, thinking, gosh, like if I'm gonna go on a vacation, and I have to leave my house for an extended period of time, like I would not
Hmm.
be able to go out the door and comfortably sit down on that airplane if I didn't have a checklist of the things that I needed to take care of, so I could, let my mind at ease. So across your personal life and especially in your business life, these checklists are so huge.
Yeah, I mean, everywhere I go, you know, I create checklists for myself. I create reminders for myself. Um, it's a good way. I know people are like, you're an organizational fool. It's not really that. It's just I try not to disappoint any more people than I have to when it comes to business. And I realize that there's a certain responsibility to it, and it doesn't mean that not a few things will slip between the cracks or whatever. But at least I'm personally making the effort to try to make sure that I'm doing what I need to do for the business and also for our customers.
And let's talk a little bit about why checklists even work. I mean, we a lot of the guys in detail businesses, they'll have problems where they're getting, say, their employee has they're missing things on the car, or
Hmm.
even when the car comes in, if you're using a checklist to walk around the car. Like, if you have these things in front of you, you're going to avoid errors because it's like a safety net for your organizational part, and it reduces the cognitive load and minimizes errors just by having everything in front of you. And even as you go through checklists over and over, they become more routine, and it just becomes part of the business.
Yeah, and at first it may seem that a checklist is like very time consuming, but that's only in the beginning. After you get used to the checklist actually becomes part of you, or it actually becomes part of your DNA to your company, right? So what took maybe 30, 40 minutes, or not, I shouldn't say that. What if it took like 15 minutes, okay, to do a checklist around a vehicle, now may only take 10 minutes. And the nice thing about it is when you really look at it, that 10 minutes that it takes to do that could be cost, or it could be saving you a ton of frustration. It could be saving you a ton of time, and it could be saving you a ton of money as far as for redos and for cars coming back and those kind of things. I mean, it really can save you a lot of time and money when you look at a checklist.
And so I one of the things two of the things that were in the book that I read that were specifically about checklists and just incredible examples. Like, you guys probably have all flown on airplanes. And when you go on an airplane, they have a lot of checklists that they do. But while they're sitting there in the cockpit, when you're
Hmm.
getting in the airplane, they're going over checklists. When they push that plane back and it sits back and doesn't move for a minute or a couple minutes, they have checklists. When they get to the end, they have checklists. So the story was this. In 1935, Boeing was competing to build the B-17 bomber. And they were in competition with, I think, McDonnell Douglas. And they put this plane had more knobs, bells, whistles, everything on it than any plane in history. And before 1935, they didn't have checklists in place. So they got this plane and they were testing it, and it went up in the air and it crashed. And two of the five people who were on the crew died. It was after that that Boeing started using checklists in flight. Since that happened, it has drastically reduced the amount of fatalities in the air. And so, if something that's that important uses a checklist and it helps run that business, then think of what it can do for your business.
Anybody who's a pilot has to go through a checklist list before they get in that plane and take off, right? I mean, you're doing it for your own safety, but you're also doing it for the safety of your passengers. And when you look at the checklist, what you're doing is it's a safety net for your customers, and it's also a safety net for your people too. The more that your people realize what the expectations are and what is expected of them, it gives them a clearer direction, a clearer path, and it makes them more efficient too. So they're not second guessing, well, what's the next step? What should I be doing this? So forth and so on. And I really see that with checklists. I also believe here's the other part of a checklist that I believe that's kind of underestimated. And that's that checklist is a third party to deal with issues or problems with an employee, right? So it's always, did you do the checklist? Did you check this off? Okay, so if you didn't, why? You know, let the checklist be the bad guy. You don't have to get all personal about it. You can let the checklist be the bad guy because the checklist tells them exactly what it's supposed to be doing, exactly how the end result should be. This is what you're looking for as a company. And if those goals aren't being met, why? Why aren't those things being done? And it's not to be the heavy on them. It's also to realize too, okay, did you miss something in that checklist? I mean, there's a lot of times that we have had to go ahead and evolve our checklist. And it's just also through trial and error. But if we didn't have a foundation for it, it would be, I think, disastrous.
Here's the other example that can just really show the gravity of having a checklist. In 2001 at Johns Hopkins University, they developed a simple checklist. And up until that time, central line infections were really common and deadly. So people were just getting
Mhm.
sick and dying from infections, staph infections, MRSA, and stuff from having central lines put in. The checklist was, it was this simple: 5 steps. Wash hands with soap. Number 2, clean the patient's skin with chlorhexidine antiseptic. I think that's that red stuff that they put on you.
Mhm.
Number 3, cover the patient with sterile drapes. Number 4, wear a sterile mask, hat, gown, and gloves. Number 5, place a sterile dressing over the insertion site. Like that seems, if we think about like washing a car, it seems like super simple steps. Those are super simple steps. The infection rates dropped within 3 months by 66%. The checklist saved over 1,500 lives and $175 million in costs. So if
Yeah.
something that simple, the point is, we may think as business owners that we're being too rudimentary. But the most simple, basic information is always going to be the most important information. And we always are trying, especially, like yourself and me, when we're talking to somebody and we're trying to help them through a business problem. Well, you think, man, I don't want to say that. I've already said that I've already talked about checklists 500 times. But it's
Mhm.
absolutely still as relevant because it's not adopted by everybody. I mean, I still talk to people every day and they're like, "Oh, well, that's an interesting idea."
Yeah, I mean, we think it's just a mundane task, and realistically, it's not. You know, how we think and process everything in our heads and then we speak it doesn't necessarily mean that they're going to pick up on all that. But if you put it in black and white and it's in front of everybody right there, it makes it much easier to keep everybody on the same page as much as possible.
Yeah, they even have, for other kind of organizations, things like task managers, like a site called Monday.com, which would be really great
Never
and
heard of it.
organized.
Never heard of it.
All right, so let's talk about like what we can put checklists in applications in detail. So maybe for your daily operations, maybe you have a morning checklist that your employees come in and they're checking, opening the door, making sure that the stations are set up, that the chemicals are filled up, that the customers are in order. I know you guys
Mhm.
have, a really robust morning process. Tell a little bit about how at your detail shop you've developed all that.
Yeah, I mean, so in the morning we have somebody that shows up first thing. Tanner has been doing an excellent job of this for years. But Tanner will get there 30 minutes before we open the doors. He'll check over everything. Was there something that did get missed? You know, because we have deliveries in the morning. And when people are coming to pick up their cars in the morning, they're getting ready to start their day, right? So you want them to be able to pick up and drive off and get going with their day. You don't want them to come pick it up, say, "Oh, just wait a minute, we're not finished with something," you know? And so Tanner will go and he'll look at the checklist and he'll see if the checklist has been filled out. And if they haven't, then okay, what got missed? And then note it. And when I talk about checklists, like that's our checklist, you know. So it's pretty precise. It goes over everything. The biggest thing too for with a checklist is not just accountability, but a customer doesn't necessarily go around their car all the time. They typically walk from front or they're walking from the back and they're going to the driver's door, right? They're not down there in a crouch position to see a dent or a big chip or something like that that's in the paint. So we have a diagram and you can circle it and just put dent. chip, whatever. But also, what time did you find this? So we have a time period too, so we can trail that back. It When you do present a customer with a problem that they haven't seen or damage that they haven't seen, you want to let them know you're doing this because you're trying to help them. You're not trying to hide anything. You're not trying to go ahead and pass the buck on anybody. You're just saying, we want to be responsible and let you know because we understand that you don't get like 12 to, you know, 2 feet away or a foot away from your car constantly all the way around. We just did that and this is what we found, you know. And typically, when you talk to them like that, they're like, ah, that must have been when I was driving over here, or that must have happened when I was doing this. And it also develops a lot of trust with the customer because the customer is now explaining to you their history and their driving, right? They just don't do that to anybody. So to me, it's a good way of with the checklist in the morning, starting off the day, make sure that that it's getting off on the right foot, and the end result is a happy customer picking up and getting on their way.
Yeah. The deeper I get into all of like just the business side of the world, and the more that I learn and learn and learn, it's these systems that you put in place that end up giving you the freedom to grow and scale a business like you have, without having these checklists. Okay, I mean, just imagine a world where you never implemented any of that. How could it run, or how do you see it? The difference being,
Oh, it can run. It's just not going to run efficiently. Um, and it probably won't be in business very long, you know. Again, the end result has to be the customer is leaving your shop happy, right? So if the customer's not leaving your shop happy, they're going to let everybody know they're not happy. Um, and by creating that experience and holding on to those expectations, it does make a difference. But you can't do it all by yourself. You have to have a team around you. You have to have your employees, and your employees will never have the exact same passion that you have. They will never feel the responsibility that you have. So that's where in black and white you're able to put it all right there for them. You know, and give them an opportunity of exactly what you want and exactly what you're looking for. And when they don't remember that conversation that they had with you and you're telling them how how you wanted things done or what you want the end result to be, there it is in black and white for them to refer to.
Dan Martell, the author of Buy Back Your Time, says if you can get employees, much like you said, they're never going to be 100% of you. They don't own the business, it's
Right.
not theirs. But if you can get 80% out of people, and that frees up your time to do other stuff to grow your business, that's 100% awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Totally agree with that.
Okay. How about like service specific checklists? Like maybe this is almost like a flow chart or a checklist that
Hmm.
your employees understand all of the steps that you want to go through. And I think as a business owner, you want to have your people have a little bit of room to bring things to the table that might be more efficient, but you probably have a pretty good idea of how you want things to go. And what you don't want is just this avant-garde of everybody trying to come in and make up their own systems and their own ways of doing things, because much like a McDonald's, if you get a Big Mac in South Carolina, it's the same as you get in California.
Hmm.
So how about the consistency of like specific jobs with your team and checklists?
Yeah, and I think honestly that's when you look at your team too. Um, when that checklist that I showed you, that has changed so much from my very first checklist. And here's the greatest thing about it. Bob and Davis are the ones who have put out this new revised version of the checklist this year, you know. And that's what I want. I want the people who are dealing with the customers, I want their input too. I really want their input because they're on the front line of dealing with the customers. I'm not physically there. So we want to make sure that, again, it's about that customer experience. So what they do is they use a checklist to relate to our guys in the back what the customers are looking for and why it's important. You know, and why is it important to have the tires dressed? Why is it important for this or so forth? And believe it or not, the when you do have a situation like this, or putting together with your team a checklist like this, you'll get some input from them. There's no doubt about it. They will. They'll give you their input, and that's important too. As the owner, you need to go ahead and look at that and say, all right, what is essential, right? What do you take from the back? What do you take from the front? And what do you put into this checklist? But you need to listen to your team. You got to, because they're the ones that are dealing with the customers directly.
Yeah. And and it's such a more healthy environment than a top-down leadership style and just barking orders and no fun to work for on and
Here's the funny thing. On Black Friday, we even had a couple customers that come in and they want to know if we were hiring. You know, just because yeah, they're passionate about cars, but they're like, I just love it here. It's so cool the way you get, and we have a great team. We have just an incredible team there, from back to front, front to back. It is an amazing team, and the customers pick up on that. They pick up on all of that without even saying a word, to the point where, man, I wish I could work here, you know? Now, the majority of those guys ask me, oh, yeah, you got a job. No, dude, I'm not paying $30, $40 an hour. That's not, you know, but I'm actually, I feel very privileged that they would like to work there.
yeah, I would imagine that's about the best compliment you can really get.
I think it's a huge compliment.
And I mean, it must just feel great as a business owner who employs people and helps support their families. Like, I don't know. It just nets out and keeps branching out. The effect that a small business owner can have on so many people, not just the customers, but like the families and the people that are in that family. Yeah, super
And
satisfying.
and with all that comes in a responsibility too. Um, that's the other thing. If you're not feeling responsible for your people, then quite honestly, I don't think you're very much of a business person. I think you're more of a tyrant. You have to think about it. And I understand there are business choices that have to be made, and some of those aren't very pleasant. It does kind of go with the role and the responsibility. It just does.
So let's talk one more point on here. Like using those checklists for customer interaction. I think we were before
Hmm.
talking about using it to check the car in as a tool that could point out damage that might save you from getting that pinned on you, or it might be a
Hmm.
great opportunity if your technician or whoever's going around the car with the checklist can use it as a tool to upsell. That's always good, and because they're going to find things that they can point out. But the second side of that I don't know that very many people are doing, and I think Dustin has implemented this, and I've been hoping that would happen, is with that checklist that you're checking the car off after all the things are done at the end of the job, that goes into the folder with all of the paperwork. And the kind of my idea that I think would be so good about that is when you go and get your car serviced or your oil changed, they give you that piece of paper at the end and it had the 22-point checklist, checkpoints.
Hmm.
Or do I ever sit and read each of those things that gets done? I literally don't think I ever have. However, I have that in my hand and I subconsciously think, man, they checked everything on here. And I feel like they just did a
Right.
great job. That might even make your customer less apt to look around the car for something that's wrong.
Yeah, it is. And not only that, it can be, you can, and it's simple as making a copy. It really is. Um, we, with our CRM too, our CRM is what's great is some of the things that we find in a checklist, we can go ahead and put that into the customer's profile of what we found, right? And that way it's also documented on what date, so forth and so on. So say they come in 6 months later, they're like, oh, by the way, I just saw this, whatever. Yeah, we saw that, we identified it, and on such and such a date when you brought it in, you know? And it's not to sit there and go, be snarky about it. It's just the fact that it's more so we understand that life gets busy, you know, and this car is taking you to and from places, and You don't walk around it all the time. And we're here to help. And that's the other thing. The checklist or what you got, it's there to help. It's also there to help console and make you feel very comfortable and make you feel as if you're getting the most out of your time and your money. But it's also there, especially to make you feel like you do. Man, they checked everything. It's good to go.
So good for the business, good for the customer. And we have on in the installer assets for everybody who's one of the owner's pride installers. You can go to the assets, and we have a checklist in there that you can just download and use. If you wanted to make your own checklist, do you know where somebody might go to make that? Maybe like Canva or one of those kind of.
Oh yeah. You can make your own anywhere. You can even use AI to help you with it. You know. Um, if you wanted to, you can go ahead and just copy what we have up there and then shape it, mold it, turn it, whatever is going to work best for you and your business. The biggest thing is you got to have one. You got to start somewhere. So here's a base template and you can build off of that.
Okay. So, checklists for all of the reasons that we just said are a pretty simple thing that should be implemented into your business. I everybody who I talk to that we're working with, and I have them do just like you guys do at the Omaha store, and that's get those clear plastic things. The keys go in there, their paperwork goes in there, so everything can stay together for the entire process. And I've watched your guys come in when they're going to start working on another car. They come in and grab that whole packet, and it goes with the car.
Yeah, yeah, and that's another thing. It takes a while to create those habits, right? It's easy when you have a clear plastic with a pocket to reach in and just grab the key. Again, we always tell the guys, you got to keep the packet and the keys together. I know what it's like when you can't find a pair of keys. And what really stinks is it's not affecting just one person. Trying to find those keys affects the entire shop because now everybody is looking for the keys. No car is going to leave, nothing's going to move. You got to find those keys, right? And when you think about how much lost time you have from that, when you have, like, say, three people and 5 minutes, or maybe it took 10 minutes, it took 10 minutes to find these keys. That was thirty minutes of manpower time. I mean, that's a lot in an 8-hour day. And that's if you're lucky you find it in 10 minutes. But if you keep it in the clear plastic bag and you know where it's going to be hung up and where it's supposed to be, there's the expectation. And when you build up you repeat it and you repeat it and you repeat it, finally it'll stick, right? And they'll even start policing themselves. So if somebody doesn't have it and they're going around and moving the vehicle, where's the bag? Where's the bag for this? Because they don't want to be pulled off of their job later on because we couldn't find the keys.
So, and probably a really cool point to make is if your employees are not doing it, you're the owner, you're the boss or the manager, and you
Mhm.
want to implement this system, and you're getting not getting people to buy in. How do you work around that? Like, what? How psychologically do you, without being a total douche and like being "Rah, rah, 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 rah," because that's
Right.
probably not going to be the most effective. But how do you do that?
Honestly, you break it down to simple math. You look at a universal language, it's going to be math. So if you show them that their time, because they don't want to be at work any longer than they have to, right? But if you show them that, listen, by doing this, we're saving ourselves a lot of time so that you can get out of here on time. And then just like the 10 minutes, like I said, 10 minutes to go ahead and look for keys affects three people. I hate that thing flashing. Anyway, but when you explain it to them, they don't like wasting their time any more than anybody else. And when they realize that their time is being literally stolen because of a simple thing of not putting a bag back with the keys in it, they police it. And they kind of police each other on that. And people are going to forget, and that's okay, as long as the other team is willing to go ahead and parts of the team are willing to go ahead and say, "Hey, by the way, there's that bag," you know. Um, and they do. our team has got enough pride in their work too that they want to make sure that if the customer is going to show up, that they know it doesn't look good if we can't find keys right away. You know, it doesn't look good.
Just
And they
sloppy
don't
and
want that either.
irresponsible. Sloppy and irresponsible.
And they don't want that either. So by explaining to them that and showing them the math, typically that takes care of it and they start policing it. But it does take a little while. You can't give up on it. You've got to keep going. You got to keep pounding it into everybody. This is how it's going to be. This is what we need to do. It's not because I personally am the bag Nazi or anything, but you guys have to do this and this is why. And once they understand the why, they don't want to waste their time and they don't want to look bad either.
About how long did it take to get buy-in for you?
I would say 6 months.
Wow. Wow. That's a lot.
Well, it does seem like a lot, but if you look at the evolution of that shop, I mean, it went through three growth spurts in 8 years. So where you used to hang the bags because we grew the shop, now the bags go here, you know, to where now that they're in the shop that they're at there in Omaha, 5,000 square foot building, they have the hooks and everything is there. Right? And we're not moving from that space. We're not enlarging the space. The space is what it is. And I think that's the other thing. It's consistency. We talk about, you talk about it quite a bit more than I do, consistency being the key. And that's it. You just got to be consistent. And it'll happen. They'll buy in.
Absolutely worth it, and a really super easy fix to a lot of these guys that I see when you talk to the owner and they're just so steamed about their employee, and they're like, oh, they missed this or this car came back, and I'm like, do you have a checklist in place? And they're
Mhm.
like, no. And I'm like, well, do you think that might kind of fix that problem for you?
But okay, so and let's look at it from the entrepreneur side or the business owner side, right? Way they look at it is it's just another thing to do because they're spending so much time working in the business, you know, and not working on the business. And that's not as fun as working in the business. Putting together a checklist isn't as fun as removing scratches and putting in your AirPods and working away.
But yes, it is. Yes, it really truly is. As when you
It can be
start,
fulfilling.
yeah, when you start to get it, it really is as fun. That's So let's kind of shift into that side of what we're going to talk about today, and that's that burnout. I know a few months ago, you know, gosh, I don't remember. It was maybe in August or July. I kind of did hit a wall. Like
Hmm.
I just like I couldn't get myself to sit down and do the work that I needed to do. Like I was frustrated and it was just too much piled on me. So I took a few days
Hmm.
off and it was really really helpful. Um let's talk just about like what burnout actually is.
And burnout itself, it's it's like degrees, there's stages of it, right? Is it stage one burnout, is stage two burnout, three, four, is it terminal burnout? And I think that's kind of how it needs to be looked at. The truth is it gets worse unless it's treated just like anything else. If
Yep.
you didn't take your time out off like you did, then that burnout is just going to get worse, and it's going to get more and more and more. It's just going to pile on. um it everybody has it too. It doesn't matter if you're a business owner or an employee. Everybody can struggle with burnout. I do think by having, schedules, by having checklists, it helps keep everything more focused and attainable. I believe everybody needs goals, and this kind of helps keep those goals in front of you. And you can actually feel accomplished by the end of the day rather than feeling completely burnt out because you know you did something, right? We've all been there. We've all had those days. The day goes by and you're like, where the hell did it go? You know, I am so exhausted. I'm so tired. I just want to throw my phone up against the wall. That's it. I'm done. You know, um, but where did it all go? If you have checklists, you can actually look and see, okay, I accomplished this, I got this accomplished, I got that accomplished, blah, 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 blah. It really does make a huge difference to be able to write there on a piece of paper.
Some signs of the burnout, like when somebody gets heat exhaustion or something, they're like, hey, here's the signs for heat exhaustion. You could have chronic fatigue and lack of energy, just kind of a
Hmm.
really blasé attitude, maybe. Slower productivity, or just decreased work, so your workflow's not going out because you can't freaking focus. And then on the other side, you
Even
could
depression.
depression, irritability, and that can
Hmm.
that can bleed over not only to your work stuff, to your coworkers and your customers, but to your family at home. And it just can cause all kinds of problems.
Yeah. Yeah. And we're not talking about compartmentalizing your emotions and your feelings either. We're talking about creating a structured pattern. So you have a time and a place to really push it and get things done. And then when you get home, you understand, I've done everything I could today. I'm going to spend some time with my family.
So, well, one of the things when the guys that we're talking to with these detailed businesses and with burnout is there's certain things that you have to do in your business. Like you have to call your customers and follow up on leads. You have to do until you grow to a certain size and you hire somebody to do your
Hmm.
marketing. You have to do that. Like it's just
Yep.
part of the deal. And a lot of the guys will get up and they first thing they do is they just head out and they start cracking away at work, polishing cars, taking care of the business to make the money for their business. But
Hmm.
then they don't take care of those other pieces. And so they're come back home, they're done working all day, and they put in 8, 10, 12 hours. These detailers are hardworking men and women.
Hmm.
And then they come home and they don't have the energy to do their social media posts, to follow up on the leads. So sometimes, just to help prevent some of the burnout, you can just restructure your day. And so, what I suggest to a lot of the guys who run into that problem specifically, I say, take your first hour of your day, and instead of running out and starting polishing a car, sit down and take care of that office work. Get your social media posts out there. Follow up on some phone calls. Do some of that work, and a couple really neat things happen. First, it's not hanging over you like an albatross the whole day, like, and you're dreading that you have to do that part. And second, you start your day off by checking something off of your list to keep the circle going there. Um,
Yep.
and you get like a positive little dopamine blast because you've done something positive and you've checked something off of your list positive to start out your day. You're starting out with a win, which sets you up for the rest of the day just going ahead.
100%. I think the other thing too is, we're talking about working on the business. You should be working on getting yourself replaced. Every time that we put checklists together, every time that we would do anything as far as structuring within OP, I mean, in my mind, for me to work myself out of a job, you know, and yeah, in the beginning, you got to do all these things yourself. There is no doubt about it. When you first start off, you don't have, you're bootstrapping is what you're doing. And I understand it. The thing is after you get the boots on, where are you going to go? You know, you need to go ahead and have a defined goal in order to say, this is where I want to be. This is my next job, and I'm going to work myself out of that. How do I do it? What checklist do I need to have, and pertaining to that certain job, so I can go to the next one? Because they're all very important, and you do only have 24 hours in a day, and you're burning the candle at both ends when you're starting out. And you will continue to burn the candles at both ends until there's nothing left, unless you do go ahead and surround yourself with a team. Or if you cannot, manage your time. If you don't manage your time, yeah, you're going to burn
But
yourself out quick.
you end up in a time debt where you're spending too much time on low value tasks that aren't, and you're ignoring the high
Hmm.
value tasks, which terrible, terrible, terrible. And the lack of delegation, I think, is exactly what you're saying. If you can take
Hmm.
some of the jobs, like if you absolutely loathe making the social media posts, or something.
Hmm.
And that's just something that is a drag on you all day mentally. Well, you can probably, that might be a good place to put somebody in to fill that bucket. And a lot of the guys with employees, I think from conversations that I've been having, they really hire somebody and they hire them for just this one specific job. Like, if you need somebody to put the warranties into your computer system to get them on Carfax, like the owner's pride warranties go on there, um, that could be somebody's job. Just because
Hmm.
they're polishing a car, they're at work. You can give them more responsibilities, which probably would even make them feel warm and fuzzy that they get to do other responsibilities. So look around at what you have right in front of you that you can use, and start to delegate some of those things so you can avoid burning out and be focusing your energy on what's going to make your business money.
And a lot of people are afraid to delegate because nobody can do it as good as they can. You're absolutely right. I shouldn't say that nobody can care as much as you do about that certain job, right? Um, but what you'll find out is some people enjoy doing it. Some people enjoy inputting data, you know. There are people that enjoy answering the phone. And the people up front, Bob, Sarah, Davis, they do so many different jobs, but it's all for the same goal, right? And whether it be putting the warranties in, whether it be answering the phones, whether it be answering messages on Facebook, taking calls, um, they do it because the end result is the happy customer. And they know that the happy customer is going to create more happy customers, which is going to increase volume, which increases tip money for the guys in the back too. I mean, it's all working for the greater good. And Bob probably enjoys inputting warranties and I better more than I do. Davis is definitely quicker at it than I ever was. Sarah is much better on the phone than I was. But in the beginning, I had to do all of that, you know. And if I was doing all that and getting pulled in all these different directions, nothing could really grow.
Here's another one where it can lead to burnout, and that's setting unrealistic boundaries, or that car comes in and you're already booked for the day and you're like, "Oh yeah, we can take that too." And that's unrealistic. It's not fair to you, your employees, or the customer, but we get this mentality of like, "Oh, if there's a piece of steak on that plate, I got to eat it."
Yeah, I mean, I'm as guilty of it as anybody else too. I really am. And I think that again, when it comes back to creating that positive customer experience, you really don't want to say no, I mean, you just don't. And there are times that you will have to. And there are times that you are going to go have to, and everybody's not going to be happy with you in the back. But say if this is that one customer who's been bringing you X amount of cars or whatever, they're more of a high volume customer. Yeah, you're damn right. They're coming in and they're going to get it done. And everybody in back, I don't care. This guy here is, or this person here has tipped you very well over the last couple of years. You're going to get this in, and we're going to make it look great. We're going to do exactly what they want. So there are those moments, and I get it, man. There are some of those, especially when you're just like that. This little old lady that came in. It is very hard to say no to a little woman who wants a car wash. It really is. Anybody who's got half a heart, it's very hard to tell somebody's grandma no. And I remember we had a couple of guys in the back and they weren't happy about it. And I go, you go tell her no. I can't do it. You guys don't want to do it, go tell her no. And of course, they're all burly and they're like, and they look outside and like, yeah, we'll do it. Yeah.
Didn't you guys had a situation too where somebody had experienced a tragedy and took in a job similar to that, and that made the world of difference for that person?
We've had a couple of those. But to you pull everybody together. You let them know the why in this. This is why we're doing this. This is why I'm asking you to stay a little late today to take care of this. And if you can't stay late and you got something personal lined up that's got to be done, great. I understand you got to go. It doesn't mean that I wanted them to know the why rather than saying, well, you're getting paid for it. you know, you explain to the why and they understand, and it means more to them, and they understand that they're part of something that is giving back to somebody else who at that moment is having a huge tragedy in their life.
It's it's good business all the way around. So there's definitely
Hmm.
exceptions, but if you're taking these jobs in and like it almost turns into punishment for your people, and
It
not only for your
does.
people but for you and your time and your family, and you're not getting burned out. Um
Hmm.
and it's just one, it's that whole balancing, that life balance act. And I'll throw it out there. So back when I was in my 20s, I was a drunk, and I have been fired 22 times when I was in my 20s. For my first job that I got when I was 16, I got fired when I was 21, busboy at Red Lobster. From 21 until 29, when I went to rehab my second time, I was literally taken into the office and told, "You're fired," 22 times. And that's like an 8-year span. Whew. So where so I always have this like mentality now. Like I kind of messed around so much in my 20s, and I lost some time. And I'm always like afraid, even like when I'm a partner at a place, like some days somebody's just gonna be like, "You're not working hard enough. You got." So I'm always driving and driving and driving, and to the point where I'll be out on an anniversary dinner or something, and I'm like, "Oh, somebody needs my help," and I'm
Yeah.
I'm working really really hard, and you're like my hero of this, of watching how you can separate yourself and give that time to your family. And you know what happens in the whole big picture? Everything is fine, and you've got people in place, and we have an entire team where everybody's going to be okay, and you
Hmm.
can take that time off. And gosh, who we talked about, a couple guys, that we'd had conversations with this week, you and I, and a couple of those guys are burning the candle from 45 wicks on one candle. And it's frustrating and sad to watch, because they're not picking up on that lesson, and you're watching them just kind of, their life is tick tick ticking away. And they say a lot of times, when old people are on their deathbed and they look back at their life, one of the things that's very common is, "I should have spent more time with my family and my friends who cared about me, and less time in the rat race." And so there is a balance in there. Obviously you have to take care of all your responsibilities and grow a business, but you got to have that separation.
You do. And here's the other thing. They want to spend time with you. That's the thing. The people that love you want to spend time with you. And when they show up and they're around you, give them your undivided attention. Give them what everybody else wants, and that's your time. You know, um, to me, and I didn't pick up on that early. I mean, it wasn't until later on I realized it seems a little disrespectful. They really want to spend their time with me, but they don't understand. I'm running a business. I'm doing this. The truth is they want to spend time with me. I should spend time with them. And because you never know how much time you actually do have.
Yeah. Yeah. Not only just how much time you could be gone to any moment, but you could have something happen where you wouldn't be able to do all of the things that you want to do.
It's exactly where I was 2 years ago, you know? And if the surgery itself had really pushed me out there, you know, to the point of realizing this this would be a completely different type of life. I wouldn't be able to enjoy holding my grandson or anything like that, um, because I was a paraplegic. There was just no way. I mean, I feel very, very fortunate and blessed that yeah, it was a wake up call. It was a huge wake up call.
Absolutely. And you took from that lesson that you were given in life, and you've put action to it, which is great. And everything is growing absolutely fantastic across the board. So anybody out there who is running it too hard and putting in those hours, let's talk to one of us, or find a mentor or a coach,
Hmm.
and ask, just for some fresh ideas. And if you're willing to look at them and try to implement some of the stuff, you too can start to expand your life a little bit. And like I say, I'm personally going down this path right now, looking at if I could take somebody as a coaching client, I can make X amount of money. Well, I
Hmm.
can't do that if I'm buried doing the editing for my own podcast thing.
Hmm.
So what if I can find somebody who can do that work for me for 25% of the money that I would make doing this over here? I
Yeah.
mean, it's the forest for the trees. I have to practice what I preach, and this
Oh,
is
we
my
all do.
cross now.
No, I mean we all do. And here's the other thing, and it sounds like I'm kind of like dismissing, you know, personal finance responsibilities or whatever. You can't take it with you. There isn't a damn thing you can take with you, you know. Um, and I really became a firm believer in it that I can't, no matter what we do, no matter what we create, I can't take it with me, you know. Um, Therefore, how many hours during the week do I want to work? You know, do I want to do a 60-hour week? Do I want to do it? I mean, it always ends up being more than what you think you're going to do. But you need to be able to govern it by some means and having a responsibility to your family, to your friends, and to yourself. That's the other thing. Being responsible for yourself and giving yourself some time. Um, it, it it's not easy. It's not easy to juggle. It's not easy to go ahead and compartmentalize and balance out, but it can be done, you know. And I think to me, life has been a lot more fun when I've been able to structure out my time.
And so for you guys who are detailers out there running hard, and a really great place for you to go that's going to help you with that burnout, and this is going to still be in the detail world, but go to the
Hmm.
trade shows like Mobile Tech Expo. I mean, you get to see all the people that you've hung out with on the internet for a long time, and heck, some of them are your friends and you've never even met them in person. You get to talk to the suppliers who are there and the networking that you do with the detailers. And Damon and I will be doing one of the educational sessions, which was similar to
Hmm.
kind of what we're doing right here,
Pretty
ex-
much.
except live and in person. Um, it's just really a great way to do it. And by putting these systems into place, you can really start to off-source some of the tasks that are the lower ones that are just bleeding your energy. And it's really nice though that most everybody who's in our world anyways is like really obsessed and loves what they do.
Yeah, there's definitely there's a lot of passion in detailing, a lot of passion. There's a lot of artistry in it too, and it kind of goes hand in hand, passion and being an artist. Some of the guys will never say they're an artist, but the thing is, you're actually trying to create a high gloss. You're trying the car becomes your canvas pretty much, right? And because you're passionate, it's easy to go ahead and get lost into that project. You know, how many guys headphones on? They're about a foot and a half, 2 feet away from the paint. They're on the polisher. They're zoned in. You know, I get it. You got to be that way for that's your job for a little while, you know. But then it's time to replace yourself there, have somebody else do it so you can go to the next job and you can work on the business and you keep on doing it and doing it and doing it. Um, Again, that was the only way I could actually find myself outside the shop is by constantly trying to create a way to, move myself out of that position.
And one of the things that I tell guys, it's a really great exercise to do is for a week or 2 weeks, just do a time audit on yourself. So from the time you start working until you're done, put down what task you're working on. If you're working on checking your emails, if you're working on polishing a car, if you're working on
Hmm.
calling customers, and kind of put down next to it, like, is that something that you enjoy doing? Is it something that you kind of dread doing? And rate it. And then after we have like a week or two of data, you can say, well, crap, every time I have a frowny face next to this task that I'm doing every time. That's probably what you need to be offloading to avoid burnout and to, take the things off that you just don't enjoy doing and give that to someone else.
Yeah. I mean, and again, you can't do all the jobs. So do the ones that are very well suited to you, and do them well and watch your business thrive. You know, um, unfortunately, I'm probably a better talker than I am a detailer anymore because I haven't picked up the polisher in quite a while. But this is where my job progression had left me, or had pretty much led me to, is being here, and it's okay because physically I can do it anymore.
Here's, here's so not running a polisher as much anymore. Hashtag me too. And you know why that is? Because of OPX, ceramic coating self healing. So I literally used to polish this car every time I went to a car show or cruise. Last year in June, when we got self healing ceramic coating,
Hmm.
and mind you, I have had ceramic coating access since I bought this car 13 years
Yeah.
ago. But when we got a self healing ceramic coating, I said, okay, why not? Traditionally, I would go polish this thing every night before I went to a car show. Just a quick one step, and I put some
Hmm.
sealant on it, and I'm done. I have not polished this thing since last June. So a year and a half at this point.
That's pretty awesome.
That really is. And that is a 100% true story. There's no fabrication on that. Like, and it looks amazing. You pull it out in the sun, nothing. No scratches.
Efficiency. I think that's the other thing we're looking at too, is when you're talking about the checklist, we're talking about building a business and doing it to a point where you can remove yourself. It's about efficiencies, systems, and checklists. Um, but also that was the idea behind all the products. Every one of the products that we designed and developed was about efficiency. And Logan was phenomenal about this when we were designing and developing the products. Every product should have a specific job. It should be your employee and it should have a specific job. But it should be able to work with the other employees, the other products, in which they can work as a team to be efficient. So that was the whole idea behind everything. And with the OPX, I mean, it's like, okay, great, the technologies are there now. Let's go ahead, get this put together, keep it as a simple install as possible, and let it do its work, but keep the expectations real. That's the other thing that we always want to do is keep the expectations real. With a self-healing coating, it's not going to come back from a key scratch. Um, Anything that goes through the coating, it's not going to meld its way back. Anything that has it, like wash scratches or light towel scratches, like what you're talking about, stick it in the sun, watch it disappear. Yeah,
I don't even. It's pretty awesome. Pretty awesome.
yeah.
So,
I,
okay.
I love the self-healing technology.
Yeah, I do too. That coating looks amazing. All right, so if anybody is interested in learning more about Owner's Pride, you can go to ownerspride.com. Whether if you're somebody who wants to have your car coated with one of our coatings, you can click on Find an Installer, and that'll
Mhm.
take you to our map of installers, and there's probably somebody near you. And if you're a detailer and you want to join our network, it comes at Owner's Pride. We don't just jam products down your throat and then turn away from you. Like you're not just a number to us. We truly want to see everybody succeed and grow their business. It's super rewarding for all of us when we see people leveling up. We offer mentoring
Mm.
to everybody who's in our network. You can you can simply go to danwilliams.com and take your free business assessment, and like literally free. What that's going to do is point out what your most vital need in your business is, and then you can approach Jimmy or Damon or myself or Davis or really anybody, tell them what that vital need is, and you'll have a great conversation about maybe a couple things that we can do to work on that and get the ship righted. And for those who want a deeper dive, we also do that too. So
Yeah, it's been pretty cool. The last couple days, I made a post in a few of the different groups. It was a picture of the Omaha store, and there was, I think, like 30 people out front. And this is on Black Friday. It's 9 degrees wind chill at that time, and they had about 30 some people standing outside at 7:30. We had people in their cars by 6 there at the shop, you know. And I had posted it, and I just asked anybody else's Black Friday look like this outside their shop, and just said, message us. And it was a post put up by the shop there in Omaha, and we get some messages. And so I'll look at those messages, they'll send them to me, I'll look at them, and I'm like, you know what? I'll just call a guy. And so I have been very fortunate that they've all picked up. But it is. It's nice to be able to help grow an industry. As we tell all of our installers, if you don't succeed, we don't succeed. So me calling them isn't a sales pitch. It's just, hey, yeah, here's how we did it. There's no secret to it, but here's the steps that will help you. And even if you only do half of them, at least you're going in the right direction, you know? Um, but no, it's been kind of interesting and reaching out and talking to these guys who they're looking for help and they just don't know where to go. They just don't. And I understand that we're in a very unique position with OP and OP Omaha to be able to help people.
Yeah, that's I mean, talk about practicing what you preach. we we
Hmm.
we have our own stores that are the concept stores that are functioning and putting up great numbers. So I mean, proof's in the
Yeah, you
pudding.
look at Paulo in Canada, you look at Blake there in Orlando, you look at Omaha. Um, these are different areas in which nobody gets turned away if they ask a question. It's just not how we do it. Training is important to us. Um, the business aspect is important to us. And, as far as even like this discussion is about mental health too. That's important because if you're if you're having a problem with your mental health, your business is going to have a problem. Your family's going to have a problem. And typically it stems from work and workload.
There you go. You brought it around full circle. Full
Not bad,
circle.
huh?
You really did. All right. Well, man, there we go. We chewed up another hour. I really enjoy doing these lives with you. I'm glad
Hmm.
that we've switched this around. Thank you for inviting me to be a part of your dream as we get ready to head into year number 5 in
Yep.
January at Owner's Pride. Crazy.
It is crazy. It is crazy. It's a wild run. And starting a business right before a pandemic, it's we learned a lot, we made a lot of mistakes. But I think also we going through all that, and I'm sure that there'll be another episode for us too. But going through all that, there's so much pivoting that had to be done just to make things happen. And you want to talk about stress, you want to talk about burnout. We were all there, especially that first year, or year and a half even. And now we're coming up to year 5, and you can feel it. You can kind of take a breath on things, and it's a beautiful thing.
It really, really is. All right, man. Until
Alrighty,
next
sir.
time, you want to do it? You going to do it?
Nah, you're good at it. Here, this yours.
Stay glossy.